you want to have an impact being you, right? And that impact can go in one of two ways. It can be a positive impact or a negative impact. Are universities doing enough to serve the interest of all students, right? Especially students whose story is oftentimes kind of either swept under the rug or not thought about historically. You are meant to be in this space because you've earned the right to be in this space.
Welcome to the CFI Faculty Lounge Podcast, an outlet created for continuous learning and actionable insights for faculty. I'm your host, Eric Magrum, inviting you to join us in conversation with dedicated educators who share their experiences, challenges, and effective solutions. Today, I'm excited to welcome Dr. Leonard Richards Jr., a former high school social studies teacher and now assistant professor of education here at James Madison University. Welcome, Leonard, and thank you for being here with us today.
Thank you so much. Good to be here.
Could you walk us through your journey as an educator, how it all began, and what brought you here today?
So it's quite interesting. I am an alum of JMU.
Oh, okay.
So before I got to JMU, I applied to three different colleges. I applied to Hampton University, Virginia Tech, and JMU. JMU was my second choice.
Okay.
So I wanted to be an engineer.
Okay.
Had no plans whatsoever to be an educator, especially in social science. But I didn't end up getting into Virginia Tech, and so I always and I got into Hampton. But I always tell people that JMU was my second choice, but it was my best choice. And so I was always interested in history from a very young age, but at that point of being in high school, I was thinking about money. Right?
Oh, okay.
And so, I was thinking about money. I was thinking about, what was something that I could leave college with to where I could have a massive career and establish myself and build homes. Like I wanted to be an architectural engineer.
Okay.
So that was something that I was just into.
Okay.
However, once that happened, I got to JMU. Started to think about different opportunities that were out there, different pathways. Fell out of love with engineering, and I was like, well, I'm going to be here. What should I do, right? And then I started thinking about the people who had an impact on me in my life. And, of course, my parents definitely had an impact on my life. I'm a first-generation college student, so they had never been. But I had teachers, relatives, who were impactful in some way with leadership or even through their curriculum. I'm talking about my teachers now. And so being in those history classes was one of the things that really helped me get through school. It was just interest, things that I liked. And because of that, I went on this path at JMU where I started to get to know more history professors and more history curriculum. This was the first time we actually got to sit down in an African-American history course, or an Africa history course, which is one of my interests. And, I ended up working and meeting people like Professor Gain, Professor Owusu-Ansah, who's now my colleague, Dr. King as well. Dr. Lamont King. And, those individuals helped shape who I was from the history standpoint. But then, I ended up going into the College of Education where I teach now. And I ended up meeting people like Dr. Ruthie Bosch and Dr. Ashley Taylor and Dr. Christy Dubé and all these other people that helped shape who I was from that educational standpoint. And so, long story short, I ended up graduating from JMU, ended up becoming a social studies teacher at Waynesboro High School for 7 years, and then started to move in a different direction with what I wanted to do, and ended up getting my doctorate from Vanderbilt University. Right at the end of those 7 years, ended up working through the fellowship program here at JMU in the College of Ed, and then assistant professor for 3 years now. And so, it's an interesting walk of life and experiences that I've had just being a part of such a, underappreciated career path. Because when we think about education, it is a career path that's oftentimes neglected. People think that it's easy. They don't really see the value of the work that educators put in. And especially as an African-American male who grew up in a predominantly white community, I know the value of having my identity front and center in the classroom. And I've only experienced that maybe once or twice in my public school career. And so I want that to be a norm, to see us in those spaces delivering instruction. We have a lot to say and a lot to offer for all students, not just ours, those students that identify as us.
Yeah. So a couple things. So, and I definitely want to come back to transition from high school, teaching in high school space to teaching in higher education.
Sure.
But you talked about those impactful folks. Can you talk a little bit more about that? Because I think in my experience and learning about my colleagues, even down to who is more teaching focused and who is more research focused, it really comes back to what experience did they have or what were they doing when they were mentored by X individual. And sometimes it's a couple different individuals and it's sort of Frankenstein into one mentor, if you will, that has a huge impact. But it sounds like you had many individuals, family members, teachers. Can you speak a little bit about those folks and their impact on you?
Sure. I'm going to start first with the person that I always think her first when it comes to my teachers. And this was a teacher by the name of Irene Ford. So I think I said this earlier, but I grew up in Culpeper County. And in Culpeper County, again, you didn't see too many of us, teaching. But she was an African-American female teacher who taught keyboarding. And without her help in teaching me how to type, the way that she delivered that instruction, the way that she gave us the tough love that we needed, right? When I was talking about leadership earlier, that's the kind of leadership I'm talking about. But also the skills that she provided with being a keyboarding teacher allowed for me to get every single paper that I had from moving forward done. It was those little things that you don't really value at that time when you're younger. And then you think about it, it's like, I wouldn't have been able to type that thesis. I wouldn't have been able to type the teacher work sample that I did when I was here at JMU during my master's. I wouldn't have been able to do any of the papers that my history professors and others required for me to do without having the skills of typing instead of hunting and packing, right?
Yeah.
So like that's just one person I can think of right now from that aspect. But then again, when you think about the history aspect, those people, those teachers like Lindsay Dame and Donald Dotson, who I think they're working in Madison County right now. But those individuals were very impactful for learning history. My father, who was, again, he did not go to college. He was custodian for an elementary school and did other jobs, blue-collar jobs. He really got my interest in history, early in African-American history. So, like, I've always had these people around me, some certified to teach, some not certified to teach, but still able to build my ideas and my sensibilities around history in my environment and who I was. Those people helped shape my passion for going in this direction. Even my uncle, Sanford Reeves, like he too, just teaching the role of leadership and having an impact is just necessary to move forward. And standing bold in your beliefs and not unwavering from that, especially when there's injustice and other things going on, which I'm sure we'll probably talk about a little later. But yeah, just all of those people just having an impact and allowing for me to move forward with this career path. It was, I was privileged in that way.
So everybody could be a teacher. And that's what I think is so great. It sounds like, again, whether they're taught how to be a teacher in a physical space that's a classroom, or they happen to be a teacher of you through other avenues, whether it's aunt, uncle, et cetera.
Right.
So, and that's what I think is really important. I try to impress upon my students. everyone's going to be a teacher at some point.
Yep.
If you are interacting with other individuals, you are going to be a teacher.
Yes, and that's I know we have other questions to get through, but I think that's very important to understand. It's like, yes, when we talk about teacher in the sense of a school, you got to have certifications. You got to have you got to have a degree. You got to have all of those different things that are necessary that the state requires for you to have, or that our nation requires for you to have. But that doesn't mean you can't teach someone something, even though you haven't had the experiences like academia, right? And so, it's important for us to understand, to broaden our horizon on who is a teacher, right? An educator, that's a different subject, because again, we can talk about people being in schools that have been teaching for a very long time, but they may not have any kind of connection to their kids, right? And that's not really, yes, they're teachers, but are they educators, right?
Right.
Are they in it for the right reasons? Because again, finances is not one of those reasons that you're going to oftentimes see a teacher, right? But are you there to shape students to be impactful leaders and contributors to their community? And I think when I think about teaching and when I think about educating, those are the principles in which I want to instill into the people that I teach to be teachers, like I'm doing now. So,
yeah, I think, not to put one word on it, but it would seem that your belief is teaching is a verb.
Yes.
And because I come from a coaching background, coaching is a verb. It is a descriptor, just like teacher is, but coaching is doing, is the act of instructing.
Right.
And that instruction can take a lot of different avenues, a lot of different ways. And context is everything there.
Right.
So yeah, teaching as a verb.
Yeah.
Okay. So transitioning to, you talked about the impactful folks. Can you talk a little bit about how your time in the high school setting informed your time here, and or how it's different?
So, yes, it has my high school experience. And you're talking about teaching high school, right? So, teaching high school most certainly influenced this experience for one simple reason. Going into the College of Education, many of the students that I'm teaching right now remind me of some of the students that I taught back in high school. And I'm talking about their drive, their interest, their motivation, their willingness to question, which is something that we don't give enough credit to for students. Their ability to sit there and look at information and say, well, I don't know if I want to do it this way, the way that the book is saying. Okay, well then, how would you want to do it, right? Tell me what you think would go well in your behavior plans when you are trying to get students to gravitate to whatever norms you have in place, right? So that they'll be successful in class. Well, I would do it like this. All right, perfect. So now you got to go out into your practicum and try it out, right? And so when I think about my time as being a teacher in the high school setting, like you were saying, teaching is a verb, I always wanted my kids to show me something through doing, through action, right? So if you want to protest this certain situation that's going on, okay, well then have you been organized enough to do the protest, right? Because you can't just go out there and not be organized, right? Then it's not a protest, it's just you out there talking, right? So it's like, how do you motivate students? Or when I was there, I started to build an idea around action. What did it mean to have action or to commit to action? And when I got here to JMU, and really it was stuff I learned at JMU that allowed for me to be able to have those conversations with my seniors and others that I taught. But being able to, again, get them to understand that there's an impact that they can have when they know exactly what to do and have a plan on how to do it. I think that's the major thing that I gained from being a social studies educator, and then what I've done to push that narrative forward and and instill those skills with students that I'm teaching currently at JMU. And I also, being an alum, I know what it's like.
Absolutely.
I know what this looks like. And it has changed a little bit, right? There's some different buildings that have been erected here lately, but it's still the same types of students. We still have a large first gen population that's coming in. I know that experience well, right? I can definitely gravitate to some of my young learners who look like me in that space where I only see myself, right? And I acknowledge that fact, and I try to make sure that I'm providing a space necessary for students just like that to not only be protected, but also to have an avenue to speak, which is oftentimes missing in education when there's people that are part of the majority that do not look like or identify the way that some marginalized students identify. So it's just all of those types of principles. It's not so much one influence. Well, actually, I would say that, yeah, it's one influencing the other and vice versa. It's all a part of a continuous cycle or chain of teaching experience that I've gathered.
Yeah. In your view, what does it mean to excel in your role?
Ooh. So some would say, it's the amount of work that you publish, right? It's the amount of scholarship that you put out there, the amount of articles that you're able to send out into a journal, right? But excelling from my own perspective would be continuous growth, personal growth and professional growth. So not just going to professional developments and conferences for the sake of going to those conferences, but what am I bringing back from those conferences that I can implement for myself to be a better educator, right? Or even a better lifelong learner, because that's the thing too. We are educators, but we don't stop being learners. And so, that's it when it comes to excelling, which is very important. When it comes to being better at my job, it's just acknowledging the fact that I'm at this spot and I can achieve higher. There's more out there, not just in like the career path itself, but more things I could be doing in the class to make my teaching more refined. That also means taking in some hard criticisms sometimes, which is difficult for any person, right? Especially if you think that you're doing it right. And
that's
so,
when that's the most difficult.
Right. When you think you're doing it right and you're still, having the criticisms, being delivered to you, you have to just kind of take that on the chin. But at the same time, listen to that advice that people are giving you, whether it's students or if it's other faculty or colleagues. You have to sit back and say, okay, these people clearly see something going on. Now I have to open up my mind and say, okay, what exactly is it that they're seeing? What am I not being clear on? What am I not being intentional about? So that self-reflection piece is part of that excelling. I can't excel if I'm not self-reflective. I can't excel if I believe that I'm doing 100% of what I need to do, right? That would mean that I'm perfect, and that's not true. None of us are. So it's how do I say, okay, now I know that I need to remember this for a certain group of students. So I need to remember it now so I can address it now. But then moving forward, I need to also make sure I put it as part of my syllabus or part of my curriculum or part of my teaching philosophy. It's constantly growing. So it's not just, again, moving from one level to the other. Professionally, it's what am I doing to better myself as an educator for all the students that I come across?
So along a similar vein, what unique qualities or perspectives do you bring to your role as an educator?
So again, I tend to focus, and you're going to be like, man, he really focuses on his identity a lot, right? But my identity is so important to me, and especially in this space, being a part of a PWI. So the leadership qualities that I have that I've constantly built upon while being an educator and while going through education programs and my doctorate program, and just that piece will always be there. But recognizing my identity in this space is so important, and it is a quality. It's an identity, but it's a quality as well, because through that quality, I'm able to recognize I'm able to recognize myself as part of a larger unanswered question at a lot of these universities, and that is, are universities doing enough to serve the interest of all students, right? Especially students whose story is oftentimes kind of either swept under the rug or not thought about historically. And so the work that I'm doing with other professors, other on-campus groups really help us or helps me gather that information to, again, implement it in my classroom. So I'm a diversity teacher. So I teach diversity. This is my first year doing it, but I teach diversity. I co-teach it with Dr. Marcus Wolf. And we have these conversations with our class. And we're getting deeper and deeper, and the discussions are getting more and more fruitful. And that goes to also that this also connects to having the quality of being open-minded and being open to listening. Students are still learning like we are still learning. And so being able to allow for them to share their perspectives and provide opportunities for pushback, but letting those students understand that the pushback is there to refine your thinking, to make clarity, to put clarity with your thoughts, right? Those are the types of qualities that I bring to personal qualities that I bring to my own job, is that I'm willing to listen, engage, and understand. Like those are all wrapped in with acknowledging myself as a Black man in a predominantly white female profession, which is education. If that makes sense.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
So to this point in your career, what are you most proud of?
Only professionally, or can I? Okay.
You answer however you see fit.
Okay. So I'll start with professional first. So if we're talking about my career, I'll start with professionally first. I'm definitely proud of the article that I just had published. This is the first ever article that I had published in the VASCD. So it's connected to behavior and classroom management from a culturally responsive lens. And that article, I've been working on it. And I finally was able to get it published in the state journal. And so I'm very proud of that, because now I'm starting to, that was actually one of the articles that I ended up having published. It's the first one of my own. And, I'm starting to get my name out there little by little. And I'm proud of that fact, because I want people to understand and know my story, and to know the success that Black male educators can have in, again, these predominantly white spaces. But I'm also proud of it because I'm a person that's very modest. When I do have success, I oftentimes don't want to talk about it because I don't want the show to be about me. And so this kind of has allowed for me to break out of my shell a little bit in that aspect and say, hey, man, it's okay to brag a little bit. Like, it's okay to talk about yourself in a positive light. You can't, like, I'm starting to learn that I can't say, hey, we need to see more young Black men, young Black women, so on and so forth, young people in general, or people in general, out there and shown that they can do it, and then I myself is doing that work, and I'm not saying anything about myself, right? People have to know what we're doing, and so I just try my best to now take that in, and so that article is an example of that. Just getting my name out there so that people know that Leonard L. Richards Jr. wrote this article, and Leonard L. Richards Jr. is a competent person that knows what he's talking about these issues. And knows how to deliver instruction in the classroom. And so I'm very proud of that. And that's why I was actually personal and professional, because personal, my kids. I'm just proud of being a dad. Like that's just something that's just, I'll just always cherish. So.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So what drives you to continue growing and thriving in your role? So
it goes back to the growth piece, the excelling. where am I at now, and what can I do to be better? What can I do to have, again, grow my perspectives, but also grow my outreach so that more young people can think about this profession the way that I thought about it years ago and become role models and leaders and educators within their school district. And I think it's really important. I was talking about myself being a dad. I want my kids to see that too. So I want my kids to understand what the hard work looks like, to understand that that it is tough to be in this place, sharing our identities. But at the same time, you can do what is necessary to make sure that you have a better experience than I had. And then you're allowing for people to pave the road, or you're paving the road, for people to come after you to have a different experience and a more fruitful experience than you may have had. Like, that's something that I just want to continue to do. I want to have a continuous thread for people to, or a continuous road for people to travel that is much less rocky than the roads that were traveled before. So
yeah. So it sounds like, not to put words in your mouth, but it sounds a lot of modeling. So modeling for your kids, modeling for students, modeling for other people who may not necessarily have a model like yourself,
yes,
or as obvious, whatever it happens to be.
Right. And it doesn't, and again, I told you that I'm very modest about the things that I do. It's not to say, hey, you need to be just like me. That is not what I'm saying at all. What I'm saying is that you want to have an impact being you, right? And that impact can go in one of two ways. It can be a positive impact or a negative impact. Shoot for the positive. Shoot for the positive impact. Not so that people can remember that you are the one that had that positive impact, but so that you can understand that your impact has helped build so many other people to do things that will make them better as people, and to be contributors to not just this state, to this nation, but to this world as human beings, providing an outlet for people to recognize and value the humanity that comes with this profession and with any profession that is called to serve others.
And transform their life. So you're, again, laying down the path, because I think a really important distinction you just made there is you don't just want to be me.
Right.
And I think that's really important, because that's something that I personally didn't really understand for a long time, which was, I can't be another coach. I have to be me. And the second that I'm trying to be somebody else, I'm taking myself further away from what I'm actually supposed to be doing.
Yes. And I always tell students this too when they're coming to my class, any class that they're coming into, especially behavior and classroom management. I just love talking about this. I am giving you tools to be successful. I'm not giving you the playbook on how to be, like, that's not what I'm doing. I'm giving you tools to put in your toolbox. So that means that when you get into your high school or middle school and you're teaching, and you start seeing teachers that are doing things a little bit different than what we've taught you at JMU, but it's working for them, then you need to ask, okay, so where did you learn that strategy, right? Because then you get to put more tools in your toolbox, right? You're still being you. You are developing your teaching craft based on what we've taught you here at JMU, how you can apply it in your placements, but then also how you can apply it in your career. And then you're learning from colleagues and administrators and others who are seeing things in a different light that can help those students learn even more. So don't just think that because you graduated from JMU that somehow now you have all the answers. Just like you're not going to have all the answers if your parents were actual teachers in a public school. Like, they taught a certain way that you may go differently in, or a path that you might go totally different in terms of the strategies that you use. It doesn't mean that they're not useful. It just means that, again, you're an individual that's leading your classroom on things that you find important, and here are the strategies that you can mix and match for them to have success.
I very much resonate with the tools in the toolbox.
Yeah, it's just an important thing to have, just understanding that these are tools Nothing more, nothing less. Yeah.
So do you have hobbies or personal interests that bring fresh energy or insights into your work?
Okay. So, yes, I have found a new love for TikTok. I can't believe this, but and I'm not too huge on social media. I mean, I was a Facebook guy for a very long time. I still am, but TikTok has become an important part of my life right now. Only because I want to educate people on the issues at hand that's going on, but also I want to teach just the everyday person about how our government works. So again, I'm a social studies educator. So when I see things on social media that are inaccurate, I just feel like I have to check it, right? And then make videos, and I need to get back on it, but making videos that are educating people on just basic civics and basic political jargon, understanding how bills are passed and how they work, understanding how elections work, and how voting works. So it's just all of those types of things that I've started to build as a hobby. Now I'm like I'm on panels sometimes, and I'm talking about different, whether it's political stuff or Pan-African stuff or whatever it is. I'm joining in on the conversation. And what I've noticed is that I have other like-minded individuals that are doing this work that are not educators, quote unquote. They're not in schools teaching, but they have a wealth of knowledge because they love researching. That's their hobby. And so that's one of the things that I've started to do is like, okay, where did they learn that again? Let me look that up. Well, not only is it real and it's true, but now I need to do some more digging. Let me expand my lexicon and my mental Rolodex to add some of these names into my understanding, so that now I can build off and then also share information with them that they may not know. So it's just that has become a major hobby is messing. I don't know how this happened, but I ended up messing around on TikTok and fell in love with it. So hopefully I like to continue that, especially now that I'm a co-director for the Ghana study abroad. So again, I said I was working with Dr. David Owusu-Ansah. Having the privilege of being able to do that this summer will be, it's just an amazing experience. I've already experienced it once just for a week, but to be able to do this now for a month will be pretty impactful. And so I like to use social media, of course, to share that out and let people know what's going on over there.
Absolutely. That'll be a transformative learning experience
For
for the students and probably for yourself as well.
Yes, absolutely. It's something I'm very excited about. And again, students, I need a lot of work on TikTok. Again, I'm still relatively new to the app, but I know that some of these students are not. And so they know how to work that stuff. And so hopefully when I am doing that trip over there and I'm highlighting the things that the cultural experiences, the historical experiences that we're seeing there, that we can, definitely use that as a recruiting tool to bring more students into this college and more students into that Ghana program to sustain it for even more years to come. It's like one of the longest running study abroads here. So like to keep it going.
Absolutely. So how do you balance your personal life with your faculty responsibilities? And then a second part, if I may, what strategies do you use to ensure that your personal life and faculty responsibilities don't overwhelm one another?
Eric, you've asked a very hard question. I'm still I'm going to be honest with you. I would be lying to you if I said that I do a great job of balancing it. I do. That is something that I still have to improve on. But as of right now, one of the things I've tried to commit myself to do is to make sure that I'm spending enough time with my family on the weekends so that my work here, my duties here are not conflicting with the people who are most important to me in my life, which is my family. I'm doing a lot of this stuff not just for them, but because of them. And they are sacrificing things so that I can continue to educate here. They're sacrificing time away from me, right? And we're sacrificing time away from each other. And so during those weeks that I'm coming home and I'm getting home at like 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, and I haven't seen my kids at all, I'm using that time when I get home to sit down and eat dinner with them. I'm taking that time and I'm talking and I'm communicating with them and I'm asking how their day went in their school system or in their school. And I'm utilizing my weekends to only be dedicated the best I can, but only be dedicated to my wife and to my kids that have, again, been a part of the sacrifice of being a professor and working these late hours and going to conferences and working on papers late and that kind of stuff like that. But that balance is not easy. I would be lying to you if I said, oh, I got it down packed. Like, this is easy. I can just, I got a nice schedule on Google that I follow every single day. Yeah, I put that calendar together several times and I said several times, and that calendar has been changed several times. And it's okay. Right. And I want people to know, especially young professionals that are coming into this space, that it's okay to have that flexibility. But you have to understand that your mental health and your family's well-being, if you have that dynamic, that matters. And this job, at the end of the day, it is career, yes, but it's a career. And careers can change. Family is supposed to be forever. And so you want to make sure that you are doing everything you can to be as impactful as possible and connected as possible to them.
You know what I find? I've done a number of episodes now, and everybody has a really good answer to every question except for that one. Yeah. Almost every single faculty member, which, by the way, if I was on the other side of this table responding to the question, I would also say yes. It almost becomes apologetics at that point. Right. And yeah, I'm not the best at this, but this is sort of how I organize this. And I think that might be a lesson to all of us, which is something that we might need to pay more attention to that and try to find a little bit more balance. I don't have a great solution, to be clear, but I do think that's something as a faculty, just a body of faculty, that's something we got to get better at.
For sure.
If you could gift every faculty member one resource to elevate both their personal and professional growth, or either one, what would it be and why?
I think that the biggest thing that I could give to someone for them to be successful in this particular space is belief. That's what I would give them. Belief in themselves, belief in the work that they want to do, belief in the journey, because this is a very difficult journey. The way that we, talked just now, it made it seem like, I'm sure I probably made it seem like I just breezed through this, right? This is specifically for the students that I teach. It's not easy. And it gets harder. It gets harder after graduation. It gets harder in the profession itself. And for my colleagues especially, they have probably went through some things that I have not even thought about yet, right? Because I'm tenure track. So they have reached tenure, many of them. But belief is something that I would share with every single colleague, and that is the belief of self, like believing that you can make a difference, believing that you can have an impact, believing that you are meant to be exactly where you are at that particular moment. You are meant to be in this space, and you are meant to be in this space because you've earned the right to be in this space. And so, again, just keeping that in your mind, that even when there's just hardships that are happening, even when there's, it feels like you're not able to give your all, or that even your students may not feel like they're giving your all at that particular moment. The reason why you're there is to ensure that you can motivate them to do so. And so no matter what, the best thing I can give you is that you have to start believing in your self-worth and that you are there, right where you are supposed to be in this moment.
Powerful statement.
Yeah.
If you could go back in time and meet yourself before your first day at JMU.
Ooh, no.
Sorry, as a faculty.
As a faculty. Okay, I was about to say, because Lord, I got a lot to say to myself.
So not as a student. So if you could go back in time and meet yourself before your first day at JMU as a faculty member, what advice would you give yourself and why?
breathed. Breathed. Because I'm telling you now, when I walked in for the first time, like I was happy to be back. I was excited to be back, but it was overwhelming. This is a JMU and really just higher education in general. When you're transitioning from K-12 education or public school education to this, it's a totally different world. And so take it all in and breathe and release. Breathe and release. Because again, I got here and I was just overwhelmed. Articles, scholarship, I have to actually do this? Like, what? Like that's what I have to do? Like, I thought it was just teaching, right? Like, I thought that it was just this. And I understood service, but my Lord, I have to get these things done, and turn in. Like, just breathe. Breathe and realize that you are on a journey that most people have not experienced. But the people who have experienced are right there. So don't just not only do you, Leonard, the first day at your first day at your job need to breathe, but you also need to be willing and able to reach out to experts because clearly this is a new space. And there are some people that know how to do some really good navigation in this new space. You just got the map. All these other people have built houses. So try to start learning how they were able to construct these houses, right? How they were able to construct their pathways and roads to be successful and grow their gardens and have their landscape so that they can thrive and connect with those individuals. Don't be afraid to connect. And so that is what I've done more now than what I did when I first got here. Because again, I was just more so in shock. So I would definitely tell myself that again. Breathe, take it all in, seek help when you need it. Yeah. I wanted to give a shout out to one specific person as well, and that's Josh Shipp. He was my cooperating teacher when I was a student teacher at Broadway High. And that space, if you know anything about Broadway High School, if you know anything about Rockingham County, not a very diverse place. And before I got there, I was told by other CTs in my practicum experience that this space was not very welcoming to people that look like me. And I had one of two choices. I could have listened to that logic, went to the ESC, changed my placement, or option two, which is what I did, take a chance on this school that I've never experienced before. And if it wasn't for his tutelage while I was there, crafting out my student teaching goals and like crafting out my curriculum, I wouldn't have been on this journey either. When we talk about teachers and educators, he's a social studies educator that really showed me how it looks in a public school, especially a public school that's not very diverse, but one in which he provided a space where I was able to teach some of the most tough topics in one of the most conservative areas in the county. And so without Josh Shipp, I would have to say that I would have had some struggles in that school. But he provided a necessary avenue for me to be successful. He's still one of my great friends. I still keep up with him. I needed to definitely give him his props. He's an important mentor still to this day. So,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I appreciate your time today, Leonard. It's been fun.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you inviting me. Yeah, I really do. I appreciate you inviting me, and thank you for the questions.
That's it for today's episode of the CFI Faculty Lounge Podcast. A big thank you to our guests, the CFI Ops team, Sarah Rush, Leah Chapin, and most importantly, you, our listeners. If you enjoyed this conversation, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with a colleague. To stay updated on new podcast episodes and other faculty development opportunities, click the link in the description to join our listserv. Thanks for listening, and tune in next time for more meaningful conversations about teaching and faculty life.